Hey guys, Jeremy here. As a youth pastor for the past 23 years, I believe that I've had a front row seat to what I call the disintegration of the American family. There are so many factors that contribute to that, but my main goal for this channel is to provide practical tools to help you build a stronger family. As a youth pastor and a parent, one of the best ways that I think that you can build a stronger family is to get your kid into a great church youth group. But not all youth groups are created equal. And so finding a great youth group is sometimes kind of hard to do. So I've collaborated with my friend Jeff Harding, who does a podcast and YouTube channel called Youth Ministry Maverick. And he's all about helping other youth pastors be better youth pastors. And I'm all about helping parents build stronger families. So we thought, let's work together, let's do a little collab video, and maybe I can help youth pastors see what parents are looking for, but maybe he can help parents know how to connect with a youth group in a more practical way. So check out this video, and we'll be back at the end. All right, hey everybody, welcome to another episode with Shepherd at Home, and I am here with my guest, Jeff Harding. He heads up Youth Ministry Maverick.com, does an awesome podcast. Jeff, thanks for being my guest this morning.
Yeah, bro, and thanks for being my guest on Youth Ministry Maverick. This is my first video episode conversation. We are doing a joint episode, so we'll both be releasing this video, and I'll be releasing the audio on my own channels, and Jeremy on his YouTube channel. So thanks for being my guest as well.
Hey, Jeff, tell me a little bit about Youth Ministry Maverick and where people can find you.
Youth Ministry Maverick is a podcast. It's for unconventional, outside the box thinking and approaches toward traditional local church youth ministries for youth workers, youth pastors, parents. And you can find us at youthministrymaverick.com or wherever you stream podcasts. And as people will find out with this video, we also have a YouTube channel.
Cool.
How about you, man? Where can we find Shepherding at Home?
So Shepherd at Home is a blog, which I don't have a ton of blog posts yet, but it's so you can see shepherdathome.org, and then you can also find us. The big place where we are is on YouTube, and also on Facebook, facebook.com/shepherdathome, and we're a YouTube channel that's committed to bringing practical tools towards building stronger families. So yeah, so here we are.
Yeah, here we are, man.
Doing our first collab.
Heck yeah, excited.
Cool. So I got a couple of questions for you, and you got a couple of questions for me. We're going to go back and forth on this a little bit, and hopefully youth ministries can have some tools that they can put in their pocket. Hopefully families can have some tools that they put in their pocket, and we can all be better off because of it. First question for you is, not all youth ministries are created equal, right? So what should parents look for in a youth ministry, or what should they look out for?
The first thing I think they should look out for is authenticity. With this digital, hyped up generation, there's a lot of good angles for lights and a stage and all these elements to really welcome students and pump them up. But you want to be able to find a youth ministry and youth workers who actually care and invest and deliver truth and deliver good subject matter to students, and not just make it about numbers, gathering people, having good pictures for social media. You want authentic leaders. Point number two, I think, is you should really have youth ministers and youth workers who want to help you as you parent your students, and not try and take the place of you, or have youth workers who say, hey, if you don't feel like you can tell your parents, you can just tell me, right? You don't want that. You want people who are upfront and are for your family, are for you as the main authority in your students' lives. So those are a few good things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds
So,
great.
to bring up your point, when new students show up to a youth ministry, youth ministries, I feel like, work hard to make sure they welcome those new students. When it comes to welcoming or introducing themselves to their families, that's kind of an afterthought. And so, how can youth workers and youth ministries really welcome those new students and their families as well as just the students when they come in?
Well, that's a great question, Jeff. One of the things that I think is very practical, very very helpful, but it's a little bit labor intensive. Is in today's digital world, it's so easy to blast off an email, to blast off a text, but to handwrite something to the parent, to the student, as soon after they visit as possible, I think is incredible. So if you can handwrite something, if you can have the small group leader handwrite something, have a little card in the small group leader folder, so where that leader can say, "Thanks so much for joining us. We hope to see you next week. Bring this back for a free T-shirt," or something like that, and put it. And you can tell when something is handwritten. I think that goes miles for telling how they care about people. The second thing is it's really really important to try to actually connect to the parent. They gave us their phone number, the kid's phone number. So you say, "Hey, what's your?" You maybe text them or call them and say, "Hey, what's your parent's phone number? I'd just like to chat with them and get on a first name basis." Or if the parent drops them off, you can, and they fill out their phone number, you can call the parent and say, "Hey, Sally visited church on Wednesday night, and my name's Susan, and I am your kid's small group leader, and I just thought I'm going to be teaching them about the Bible, teaching them about spirituality. We should get on a first name basis, and just if you have any questions, give me a call. This is my cell phone number. Give me a text. I want to be on the same team, and I want to support you as a parent." So I think that phone call to the parent, that connection to the parent, just gets them to know a little bit of who you are and that you want to partner with them instead of just telling their kid how to live their life. Send them a card, give them a phone call. I think those things are hugely important.
Yeah, it'll be a nice surprise, and that tangible, face to face, real interaction, and especially first time, new students, new
Yeah.
environment, to have the adults reach out to not just your student, but to you as a parent, that should make them feel great.
And it really is a cooperation between the church and parents, which leads me to my next question for you. There's a lot of curriculum out there. There's a lot of publishing houses. But one of the biggest ones, one of the most popular ones, is the Orange curriculum with Rethink. The idea is that you have the parents and you have the church working together to have a greater impact for the student. So my question is, it's easy for youth ministries to say, "All right, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this." And we're telling the parents, "This is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing." But how can parents partner with the youth ministry in order to have a greater impact if we're really going to be working together?
Great question, because I don't think that's the perspective often taken with this issue. It's usually, how can we reach out better to parents? But one thing I love about that, as well as other youth content organizations, is it highlights the sound biblical principle that parents are the main disciple makers of their students.
Right.
I have a meeting with my new parents and students when they're coming into junior high in the ministry, and I lay out, hours wise, when your student is here at church in the worship service, with our youth programming, camps, mission trips, hours wise, in 6 to 7 years, they're going to spend a maximum of 6 months here at
Wow.
church. So there's no
Wow.
way that we as the church, with youth workers, people who are biblically and theologically trained, can fully train and disciple and raise your students. So when we as youth workers reach out and say, "Hey, here's our schedule, here's what we talked about today on Sunday morning," uh, probably the greatest thing that parents can do to connect with the youth ministry is to respond and to not be afraid to push back. Because we, in ministry, depending on the size of your ministry, whether you have 20 kids, whether you have 200 kids in your ministry, we're always trying to aim for the middle, right? When you have a freshman and a senior in the same room, you're trying to make sure that nothing is too over the head or way too low and basic for students. that's probably the approach that we take with parents as well. We're trying just to give them some good nuggets, some good things they can use in conversation. But we shouldn't be afraid as parents to be able to push back and say, hey, these questions are great, but we've talked about this as a family. And I know that John or Sarah, that they're really struggling with this specific issue. And I'm not really seeing that. Do you have any resources that can help us with that? It's our job to help you as a parent be able to have the resources that we can best give you to help raise your kids.
Right. Wow. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man. To kind of keep going on this issue, I feel like youth pastors see themselves as when we supply things to parents or to family at home, it's often like, well, for parents, maybe it can feel like a dump truck or a fire hydrant. Like, here's all the stuff we're doing. And,
Right.
the parents thinking, I got 20 minutes with my kid at dinner time. And when I'm driving him here, this is way too much. How am I supposed to whittle this down? What am I supposed to do with it? And as I mentioned in my example, sometimes it might not be what they actually need for their students or family, but they're
Right.
afraid to reach out. So, Jeremy, as we're both parents, what are the types of resources or content that you think families need from us in youth ministry, but they don't often get, or it gets overlooked?
Yeah, that's a great question. But before I answer it, I really want to know what the story is behind that license plate on the shelf there behind you is.
Yeah, I have that.
Tumnus.
I usually have it there on my shelf, but I wanted to make sure it was in the camera shot.
Good old Tumnus.
So when I interned for you, um, in Fort, down in Fort Lauderdale, I had a long, big fro and just like a little chin fuzz right here. And one of the students randomly just kind of looked at me and said, "You kind of look like Tumnus." That year for the camp video, if you remember, we shot a video and I went to Joann's Fabrics and got some brown fur and stapled and glued it to some old pair of jeans. And so many things I regret about that video.
Became your Tumnus pants.
Oh man, I should have had a lot more on than what I did. So I was Tumnus for not just the video, but to lead the talent show. And I had no idea what I was doing. I made up that I had an invisible flute and I dropped it. And so, where is it? Oh, there it is. And no one can see it. And I didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, I kind of rocked the Tumnus thing.
So to answer your question, because I do have an answer for your question, I just had to throw that out there.
Oh, yeah.
You said like what about like what kind of resources would be helpful for parents that are sometimes overlooked or whatever. One thing that I think is very helpful for all levels of parents is there are resources that are out there that help you understand where your kid is at the age they're at, because they're developing from kindergarten to first grade, from there to fifth grade, and when they go from fifth grade to sixth grade, a lot of stuff changes. And then from middle school to high school, tons of stuff changes. So there are some resources out there that help parents understand what their kid is going through while they're at that certain age. I think that would be a resource that would be incredible to parents. The second thing that will be good for parents, I think, is some sort of resource to help them know how to have or guide them through having difficult or big conversations. How do I share the gospel with my kid? How do I talk to my kid about purity? How to discuss sexuality? How to have that conversation? What to do when your kid messes up? So some of those conversations, some of those big rock conversations, I think a lot of times parents, they don't know how to have the conversation. They say, I know I need to have that conversation, but I just don't really know how to do it. Or they try to have that conversation, and it just goes horribly wrong. So maybe some sort of guides to help them have some of those big rock conversations, I think would be really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, totally agree.
So some of these parents might want to be engaging their kids with these things, but then there might be some parents that are out there who are not really getting their kids engaged in church. And so you're the Youth Ministry Maverick, and you're all about youth ministry. For a parent who who might say, you know what, I really don't have a huge value for church or youth ministry, but I do want to build a stronger family. And my kid maybe either had a bad experience or maybe we just don't really want to go to church. But everybody says, yo, you got to come to church, you got to come to church. How can me sending my kid to the youth ministry help me build a stronger family?
That is a great question. And the way I would approach that idea is when you talk and engage with those parents, you'll highlight, your teenagers have these handful of great teachers at school or great coaches, these adults in their life who um, they don't just try and teach them the content or how to kick a football. Like you can tell they actually want to invest in who they are. And while there are a lot of those great teachers because of just how much they have in their schedule, everything else they have to do outside of those times in their classroom or on the field, they might not have that much time to connect with them. Youth ministries, that's what we're built for.
Yeah.
We are built for when they are with us, like at church, but then when they are at their game, when they are going through something hard, when they are hanging out with their friends, when they're having lunch at school, we can be there to help invest in them. And it doesn't matter if it's sociologists who aren't Christians or who are Christians, all of them agree that the more positive adult influences your student
Right.
has in their lives, the long-term effects are exponentially positive in ways that it doesn't matter if you have like none, but they have all this structure and all these good rules and whatever else. You want all of these adults in their life who are investing in them, who care about them. And of course, the one more positive note for that is what we are rooted in. Our foundation at the church in Christ is better than any label, association, talent, gift, or whatever else that a teacher or a coach is able to um, build upon. But we're able to give them a basis for life, for conflict resolution, for dealing with hard things. The way that we are investing in those students and their students in particular, just as a good coach or teacher does, is really to help them in a holistic, well rounded way to invest in them as a person and to grow them as a follower of Christ. But because of how we're aimed that way with Christ, they will see other effects of how their student responds to things, processes things. It goes so much more than just the hour on Sunday morning. It's wherever they are, we can be a resource for them. We can help those parents wherever they are too. So it's a lot that we can do for them.
That's awesome. So before we get to the last question, I'd like to just take a minute and ask people if you're getting any value out of this video. We just ask you to give us a thumbs up. If you could subscribe to Shepherd at Home, just search Shepherd at Home on YouTube if you're checking out Jeff's, or search Youth Ministry Maverick. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and or even if you would share it, because there's all sorts of youth ministers out there who could probably benefit from this. There's also tons of families out there and parents out there who could benefit from this. So if you wouldn't mind giving us a like, subscribe, share, smash that bell if that's the sort of thing you're into, then and so you won't ever miss a video that we've put out there. So Jeff, one last question.
So, talking about parents, talking about how we can convince them, how we can meet them where they're at with their needs or their skepticism. All of us know who work in youth ministry that we have students whose parents will never darken the door of a church. And they might not just be, well, I'm not sure about church because my kid has a hard time. They might be actively against the idea of church. And there are students who don't have one or both of their biological parents even in the picture. How can youth workers um, help those students whose family situation is just tragic and hard?
One of the big things is when you have kids who are going through heavy stuff, maybe their parents aren't involved and all that sort of stuff, sometimes just being there for them, sometimes just being there, showing up to the ball game, just listening to their struggles, staying 10 minutes after church and just listening can be a huge ministry to them. Another thing is that I think we should, as youth workers, work very hard not to undermine the parents' authority, and not to put them down, because there's a lot of parents that are unengaged, but they're still their parents. And so
Yep.
we still need to encourage them to honor your mother and father. Maybe share the gospel with your mother and father. Maybe pray for them, love them. You lead them in the ways that Jesus should be. Instead of saying, "Oh yeah, you got that. You must really have a crappy parent." Instead of like undermine. Oh, you know what? Probably shouldn't. That's probably not a good way to parent. Instead of undermining them, instead of kind of not supporting them, we need to be careful of that, to try and still support the parent, support them as the authority role that they have, and help them come together. And then the last thing I would say is when you have a kid whose parents are really unengaged, maybe they're really not really involved in church, I think that just puts the weight of what we're doing on us, to say, you may be the only Jesus that person ever sees. You may be the only influence that kid ever has. You may be the only one that ever encouraged that kid to go ahead and wear a tie to your graduation, because nobody's telling them to. You may be the one that gets to influence that kid in a positive way. Don't be scared of the situation, but lean in, and I think that we can all be better for it.
Yeah. Love it, man. That sounds good. Thanks for arranging this. And as
Yeah.
people watching can tell, I am Mr. Podcast audio only with my massive headphones, not great video quality. And Jeremy is all set up for video. But man, this is a lot of fun. Pray that God continues to use you in that.
Cool, man. Great chatting with you too. And God bless you, brother. Go love on
I'll
that
try.
little deacon baby you got there.
Yeah. Thanks, bro.
All right. Talk to you soon, man.
See ya.
Bye. Well, there you have it. Hopefully we didn't ramble on too long, and hopefully you got some value out of this video. But if there's a topic we missed or something you'd like to hear us talk about in the future, drop a comment down below so that we can know something that might help you build a stronger family. So until the next time, we're all in this together. Keep your stick on the ice. Take care of your teeth. Eat some broccoli. What's a good tagline? I don't know. What's a good tagline for my videos? Got any ideas?